African Dialogue, looking at different events in depth, discussing a variety of issues.
This is a very significant historical election.
Firstly, before we get into the outfits themselves, tell us about the AIDS Consortium.
This crisis is still damaging, especially Finnish and European economies very hardly, and that's an important reason to get more and more cooperation.
And what we see here is a clear violation of, one, the rights to privacy of Tiwonge and Stephen, and also we see Malawi violating its international commitments.
Well, the position of Greenpeace is that it's been a disappointing meeting for marine species in particular.
African Dialogue, a talk show where we cover anything and everything.
A very warm welcome and hello to African Dialogue, our program airing on Channel Africa Monday to Thursday at 1100 hours Central African Time with myself, Zinat Abdul. First up, let's go to the news desk for your top of the hour news bulletin. Channel Africa, the voice of the African Renaissance. And the program that you're listening to is African Dialogue. We come to you live on the frequency 9625 kilohertz shortwave on the 31 meter band to Southern Africa. You can also listen to us via audio streaming on www.channelafrica.org and follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Now, every Thursday on African Dialogue, we do discuss issues pertaining to the environment and wildlife. And this morning, we're going to be talking to somebody or a representative from an organization called Practical Action. Now, this is an international development charitable organization that recently held a conference with regards to solar energy and hydropower. And that's obviously renewable energy or alternative energy. As you know, South Africa will be hosting COP17 this year, which is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, their annual summit that takes place, or annual conference on climate change, looking at a way in which we can save and preserve the environment. As you do know, it's a very important topic, and we're going to be seeing world leaders and heads of state all converging in Durban from November the 28th up and until December the 9th with regards to this concerning issue. We're just waiting for our guests to come through into studio from Practical Action. Chandi, she will be talking to us with regards to that conference and actually how solar energy and hydropower can be used to tackle issues of poverty and actually take people out of the shackles of poverty. So as we wait for her, let's just get into some music. She is in the building. She's just making her way upstairs into our studios, of course. And as soon as she's in, we will get talking on this important issue. Also coming up in the program, you do know we have been previewing it, or actually bringing it, we have been having a regular feature on African Dialogue this week with regards to the Women in Business Awards, or Women Awards that are taking place tonight in South Africa at the Gallagher Estate in Midrand. And we will be bringing you another interview with regards to that later on in the program after the sports update. So let's hope our guest comes in shortly. Until then, some music to take us until her arrival. And 17 or 18 minutes past 11 Central African Time here on Channel Africa, the voice of the African Renaissance. As mentioned earlier, on Thursdays on African Dialogue, we talk about issues pertaining to the environment and wildlife. South Africa will later this year be hosting the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Durban. Now, these high-level talks will be aimed at discussing a way forward for the globe in tackling the concerning issue of climate change. However, many environmental organizations have been, for years, talking about renewable energy being an ideal way for the sustainability of the environment. In keeping with those calls, a conference was held earlier this month on solar energy and hydropower. So joining us from that conference, we joined in studio by Chandi Rekera Mutubuki Makuyana, or as we know her better, Chandi.
Yes.
Right. Who is the Energy Projects Coordinator for the organization that hosted the conference, Practical Action. Chandi, a very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Sina.
It's good having you with us. So just tell us a bit about Practical Action. What is this organization about and what do you guys actually do?
Practical Action is a development organization. It's an international NGO based in the UK, but it's got offices in 7 countries in the world. In Africa, we have 3 offices, one in Kenya for East Africa and another one in Sudan, which is a country office. Then the Southern African office is in Harare, but it covers 4 countries, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, and Mozambique.
And not South Africa?
South Africa, not yet.
Not yet.
Yes.
All right. And tell us more about the work that you guys do. What is it that Practical Action is concerned about?
Okay. Practical Action is a lot of work that it does, but it is basically a technology-based organization which believes that we can solve poverty by utilizing technologies that communities can work with. Our focus is people-based technologies, which means that we come up with technologies that people can manage, technologies that people understand, that actually work for the concerns of the people. So part of the work that we do, where the department that I represent, which is the energy department, we're actually into renewable energy for rural and isolated communities in Southern Africa. So much of the work that we're doing, we're coming up with hydro schemes, small micro hydro schemes that most people don't want to talk about. Everyone talks about the big megawatts. We are doing the small ones, like 25 kilowatts, to benefit maybe a rural community, about 200 people, with grind milling services, with direct connections to their households' needs, clinics, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And why would you say that? Well, firstly, I mean, why is technology so important, or why is it that we are using technology in terms of tackling poverty? I mean, why technology per se, when many people would argue that many people in Southern Africa do not even have access to technology?
The technology that we're talking about is not the high-tech kind of technology. When the organization was actually founded, we were talking about intermediate technology. It used to be called Intermediate Technology Development Group, and the technology that we're talking about is a basic means of alleviating poverty, a systematic way of actually removing poverty. I'll give an example.
Please
if a community has a lot of bees in the area as pests, what we do is we come in with maybe technology to actually help them live with the bees together in harmony. So there are some organizations or some groups that we've worked with who have actually gone into beekeeping. So that gives them money, because honey is supposed to be a very good ingredient in cough syrups and for pharmaceutical reasons.
Right.
So that's how we actually come in. For us, we introduce the technology that actually alleviates the lives of these people.
It's an interesting idea, you know. Many people would say, well, if bees are giving us a problem, let's call people into to actually kill the bees. And what you're saying is we can give you an alternative or a way in which you can live in harmony with nature.
Yes.
That's very interesting indeed.
And then our energy work now, we're actually concentrating on renewable energy. We've got communities where hydro is appropriate. If I say the terrain that hydro is actually appropriate, you actually realize that there are mountainous areas and the transport system there is totally bad. Right. There's a community where people cannot actually reach that area, and children fall and break their bones and hands when they go to school. Right. So some of them start going to school as late as 12 years old. Mm-hmm. So what we're actually trying to do is maybe come up with a means of transportation that can actually be appropriate for that area. Things like cable trains.
All right. Well, Chandi, we're going to take a short break for an economics update. When we come back, I want to talk about the conference with regards to renewable energy. Hydropower basically is a form of renewable alternative energy using water. Solar energy, of course, using the sun. So we're going to be talking more with you with regards to renewable energy after the economics update with Mike Ntuli, and also a bit on why it's important to talk about this ahead of COP17. So that's coming up later. For now, Mike Ntuli standing by with your economics update. Thanks, Mike Intuli, for that economics update. The time is 28 minutes past 11 Central African Time here on Channel Africa, the voice of the African Renaissance. We are coming to you live on the frequency 9625 kilohertz shortwave on the 31 meter band to Southern Africa. You can also listen to us via audio streaming on www.channelafrica.org, and of course follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Now, on Thursdays on African Dialogue, we discuss issues pertaining to the environment, and very often we've tackled the issue concerning climate change. And as you all know, that as we head closer and closer to the climate change summit that's taking place in Durban this year, COP17 as it's commonly known as, we will be bringing you interviews with regards to the issue of climate change, what needs to be done, what's to be talked about at COP17, and also what is the way forward in terms of sustaining and preserving the environment. We only have one planet, and that is the planet Earth. We only have this planet in which we live in, and it is our responsibility to preserve it and to protect it as much as we can. So that's basically what COP17 is about in a nutshell. But in leading up to this, a recent conference was held here in Johannesburg, South Africa, in terms of hydropower and solar power energy used as a renewable means, or used as an alternative form of energy compared to nuclear and coal. And we are speaking to Chandi Rikera Mutibuki Makuyana, known as Chandi in short, who is the Energy Projects Coordinator for the organization called Practical Action. And she was talking to us with regards to what it is that Practical Action does. It's an international NGO striving to alleviate poverty using technology to assist people where they can live in harmony with nature and not be killing off nature. Very important indeed. Chandi, thanks for staying with us, and it's really good to have you with us. Tell us more about this, the Hydropower and Solar Energy Conference. I mean, Practical Action is not, there isn't an office in South Africa, but yet this conference was held in South Africa. Why specifically?
That's a bit difficult to answer because we were silver sponsors for the workshop. It was hosted really by an organization which is here in South Africa, SPI Intelligence. And so we felt that it was important to come and demonstrate actual cases about hydro on that conference. Mm-hmm. Why in South Africa? I think most countries really have started grasping the issue of small hydros in Southern Africa. And I mentioned that Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Malawi have taken it up in a big way. South Africa is still, I think, to my opinion, and I can be corrected, there isn't much that is happening in the rest of Africa in terms of the small micro hydro that is appropriate for rural communities.
Right.
As you understand, grid extension is very costly. And to reach the small communities, and the nature of rural communities is such that they are all scattered. They don't really follow a linear pattern, so it becomes costly to connect them using the grid. Mm. So the alternatives become really off-grid solutions. And off-grid solutions can be in the form of hydro or in the form of solar. For us, it was a key event which we needed to come in and demonstrate that it can actually happen.
Do you think that more and more countries in Africa are looking towards renewable energy as a form of sustaining the environment, or sustaining the environment that they live in at least?
Yes, actually the renewable energy, I think it's on everyone's agenda at the moment that by 2020, 20%, a minimum of 20% should be from renewable energy, not from polluting sources.
Right.
So yes, it is high on the agenda, but I think what is actually lacking, all the policies, statements have been put in place in most Southern African countries, but what is lacking is really the practice. I think everyone else is thinking, how do we start? Because it's fairly a new topic and a new technology in Southern Africa, and most people have theory but not actual practice of how it happens. So I think the Hydro Conference that was held recently gave the first move, really, towards actual practice, because the Ministry of Energy, which was represented there, they actually stated in their statement that they are really pushing for it, and it's going to be done in a big way. The commitment from the political side is there. I think it's the actual getting down to starting the work, which is a bit lacking.
Many people are of this perception that renewable energy in the form of hydro and solar obviously requires that there must be lots of sunshine. What happens if I don't live in an area where there's sunshine? Or what if I don't live in a country where we don't have such good climate conditions as we do here in South Africa, for that matter? How are we able to implement or use renewable energy and specifically solar energy if I don't have sunlight?
Well,
much sunlight.
I think the basic facts at the moment, or statistics, show that most of Africa receives at least 6 hours of sunlight per day. And yes, we've got climate variations here and there, weather variations during our winter and our cold seasons, but there are always alternatives. And these alternatives are what we actually want to sit down and brainstorm and say, what resources do we actually have in Africa where we can actually build on? So hydro is, most parts of Southern Africa have got good conditions for hydro. You need a good head, which is mountains, and perennial rivers, which is runoff, or you can even do the dams. There's so many dams in this country and in all other African countries where you can actually have hydro. So the resources are there and the options are different. You can also have biogas. There's a lot of degradable vegetation which can be utilized for that, which is also waste. There are so many technologies on renewable energy that have been tried. So as much as you may not have solar, or it may be site specific depending on your weather patterns and the amount of the type of energy that is energy source that is available in your area, there are actually options. And this is where we come in as practical action to say there are technologies that have been tried and tested elsewhere. We can adapt them and we can take them on board.
And it's practical.
And it's practical, hands-on.
Is practical action going to be in Durban this year for the United Nations Climate Change Summit?
Yes, we'll definitely be there.
And what are you hoping that COP17 will achieve?
So far, climate change issues have not been taken seriously. Everyone thinks it's an alien problem that can happen anywhere. But what people don't realize is that everyone has a part to play. We're all part of the environment and we're all polluting one way or the other. So it's time everybody, it's a combined effort. It takes everyone.
Do you think that COP17, I mean, there were such high hopes for COP15, which took place in 2009 in Copenhagen, Denmark. Cancun last year seemed somewhat low-key. Do you think that with South Africa hosting COP17, there's renewed vigor in terms of finding a sustainable deal? Or do you think that we need to go in with a realistic expectation and maybe not much will come out of it?
I think a lot will come out of it. We've got new signatories on COP17 that were not there before in Copenhagen. So just that interest for me is good enough. But also, I think Africa poses a unique kind of environment for people to actually realize it's not so well built. Not well built. It's not so extremely built up, so much that people are not in cognizance with nature. When you come to Africa, you have to be in touch with nature. So I think when they come and they see the natural features that we have, the animals that we have, the trees that we need to conserve, they'll actually be in touch with it. There's no other way of getting in touch with nature more than coming to Africa. So, and South Africa has really been good in hosting some of these big events. I'm not really worried about that. I mean, the World Cup was a big blast.
It was.
Yeah.
Indeed. And I think we're still riding the wave of the World Cup. But nonetheless, I mean, still talking about COP17, do you think that the first amendment of the Kyoto Protocol is expected to expire in 2012? Do you think it's going to be renewed, or do you think that a new amendment needs to come in? And also perhaps that, we need to get the big people on board, such as the United States, who has not signed the Kyoto Protocol.
Getting into now political issues.
Can't divorce
and the
them,
big ones.
Yeah.
Well, I think the whole world has been looking at America, the USA, to actually sign that, because it will determine a lot. A lot more people will actually follow suit once America comes in. And, well, there are statistics that they are also polluting quite a lot, if not the biggest polluter.
They are.
So them coming on board would be important, and I'm not sure really what the other nations can do to make sure that they come on board. Well, in terms of whether we should renew the
Kyoto Protocol.
The Kyoto Protocol, or the first comments, the first contents of the protocol were really good. Maybe we may just need to revise how practical it is to reach by 2012. Yeah.
What stance do you think Africa should go in with? Do you think that we should apply enough pressure in during COP17 where we say we will not leave here until a deal is signed, or do we, or how? What do you suggest Africa pushes for?
Yes, if they can push for everyone to sign, that would be good. But I'm not sure how that could happen, whether that is also realistic. My personal opinion is that if Africa stands together, really united, we have enough countries to actually maybe push for certain motions to be tabled.
Right.
So as far as I'm concerned, if all of Africa unites and they say, yes, we want this to happen, then
it could happen.
It could happen.
All right. And let's hope, we hope to see you at COP17 later this year. And of course, we will be interviewing you when we do see you there. So please do keep in touch with us. And that's where we're going to have to leave it for today, though. Coming up, we have a sports update with Fikile Lingwati standing by. And after that, of course, you've got the Women Awards that are taking place tonight in Nhlanhla Mahlangu. We'll be giving you a preview on that with some of the interviews that she's been doing in the run-up or the build-up to this award. So good luck to all the nominees for tonight. And of course, but a very big thank you to Chandi for coming in all the way from Pretoria, taking the Gau train. Was it a good experience?
Very good experience.
Okay, good. Well, I hope you saw a bit of South Africa while you were here, and you enjoyed the scenic route from Pretoria to Rosebank.
Thank you very much, Ninat.
Thank you. That's, let me see if I can get this name. Chandi Rekera Mutubuki Makuyana. Short, we called her Chandi from Practical Action. She's the Energy Projects Coordinator, talking to us about renewable energy and the conference they had earlier this month here in Johannesburg, South Africa. Coming up now, though, your sports update with Fikile Lingwati. Immediately after that, Nhlanhla Mahlangu brings you another interview in the build-up to the Women Awards that are taking place tonight at Gallagher Estate in Johannesburg, South Africa. So from myself, Bill, thank you very much for listening to us today, and we'll be back tomorrow with Gateway to Africa, our tourism and business show. Until then, do take care and goodbye. And do take care and goodbye. And do take